Have you ever noticed how your mind never stops talking? It's a relentless stream of thoughts, judgments, and stories, a constant whirlwind that pulls you away from the simplicity of this moment. Think about it. How many beautiful sunsets have you missed because your thoughts were elsewhere? How many conversations have slipped by unheard because you were lost in mental noise? How many precious moments with loved ones have dissolved into the background while your inner narrator continued its endless commentary? This endless chatter isn't just distracting, it's the very veil that separates you from life itself. When your mind is caught in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's anxieties, you miss the only moment that truly exists, now. The present moment, this breath, this sensation, this awareness, is constantly obscured by the fog of thinking. And in this fog, something remarkable is hidden, your true nature. But what if I told you this mental noise isn't who you are? What if the real you is the awareness behind these thoughts, the silent witness that remains unchanged regardless of what passes through your mind? This awareness has no beginning and no end. It was never born and will never die. It's the formless presence that's reading these words right now. It's what remains when all thoughts subside, when all identifications fall away, when all stories about yourself dissolve into the silence from which they arose. Take a moment to sense it, that spacious silence beneath the noise. Can you feel it? It's always there, like the sky behind the clouds, waiting to be recognized. It's the background against which all experience appears, unchanging, unbound, ever present. While thoughts, emotions, and sensations come and go like weather patterns, this awareness remains constant, like the sky that contains all weather but is untouched by it. Consider how even in your busiest moments, there's something in you that notices the business. In your most emotional states, there's something that witnesses the emotion. This witnessing presence isn't another thought. It's what knows all thoughts. It isn't an emotion. It's what experiences all emotions. It isn't a sensation. It's the knowing space in which all sensations arise and pass. This silent witness is your most intimate reality, closer than your breath, more fundamental than any experience. The great paradox is that this awareness, your true nature, is simultaneously the most obvious thing in your experience and the most easily overlooked. It's overlooked precisely because it's so fundamental, so close, so intimate. It's like trying to see your own eyes without a mirror, or like a fish searching for water while swimming in the ocean. What you're looking for is what's looking. Think about how we typically identify with the content of our experience rather than the context in which it appears. We say, I am sad, rather than sadness is arising in awareness. We say, I am thinking, rather than thoughts are appearing in consciousness. This subtle linguistic habit reinforces the illusion that we are our experiences rather than the space in which all experiences occur. It's like identifying with the characters in a movie rather than the screen on which they appear, a fundamental confusion about our true nature. Perhaps you've had moments when this awareness became more apparent. Perhaps during a sunset when thoughts momentarily subsided, or in the midst of creative flow, when the sense of a separate self dissolved, or in deep meditation when the boundary between observer and observed softened. These glimpses, however brief, point to something profound, your essential nature as boundless awareness prior to all names and forms, beyond all concepts of self and other. Close your eyes for a moment and listen, not to anything specific, but to the act of listening itself. Notice how sounds appear and disappear in awareness. Where do these sounds exist? Are they outside you, or are they appearing within the field of your consciousness? Is there truly an inside and outside, or is that distinction merely conceptual? Now notice your breath. Feel the gentle rise and fall, the natural rhythm of life flowing through you. Who is aware of this breath? Is it a separate you inside your body, Or is it the boundless awareness in which the sensation of breathing appears? Could it be that the breath, the body, and even the sense of being a separate self are all appearing within this vast field of awareness that you truly are? The mind creates a story of separation. I am here and the world is out there. But is this really true? Or is everything, every sound, sensation, thought, and feeling simply appearing in the vast ocean of awareness that you are? Look closely at your direct experience, not through the lens of concepts and beliefs, but with the innocent curiosity of a child encountering the world for the first time. This isn't abstract philosophy, it's direct experience. Right now, as you read these words, what is it that knows these words? What is it that's aware of your surroundings, your body, your thoughts? This knowing presence has no shape, no size, no beginning, no end. It's not confined to your body. Rather, your body appears within it. Just as images on a screen don't affect the screen itself, experiences don't affect the awareness in which they appear. Like waves on the ocean, all experiences arise and fall back into this awareness. The waves are never separate from the ocean, just as your experiences are never separate from the consciousness in which they appear. Each wave is a temporary form of the ocean itself, unique in its expression, but not in its essence. Similarly, each thought, sensation, and perception is a temporary form of awareness, appearing as awareness, made of awareness, and dissolving back into awareness. Think of a dream. In a dream, you might experience yourself walking through a vast landscape, encountering other people, having conversations, feeling emotions. Yet when you wake up, you realize that the entire dream, all characters, including you, all locations, all events, was appearing within your consciousness. Nothing in the dream was separate from the dreamer. Could it be that our waking life follows the same pattern? That we are not separate beings in a world, but the aware space in which the entire world appears? Consider the profound implications of this perspective. If you are not a separate self experiencing the world, but the awareness in which all experience arises, then you can never truly be damaged or diminished by any experience. Just as a mirror isn't harmed by reflecting a storm, awareness isn't harmed by experiencing difficulty. This doesn't mean physical pain or emotional suffering don't occur. They do, as movements in consciousness. But they don't happen to a separate you. They happen within the boundless awareness that you are. This recognition transforms our relationship with experience. Instead of constantly trying to manipulate our experience, seeking pleasure, avoiding pain, grasping for security, we can rest as the awareness in which all experiences arise and pass. This doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent. Rather, it allows for a more natural, spontaneous engagement with life, free from the constant anxiety of protecting and enhancing a separate self that doesn't actually exist as we imagine it. The great non-dual traditions point to this truth. You are not a separate self-experiencing awareness. You are awareness experiencing the appearance of a separate self. This self, with its name, history, preferences, and problems, is not your true identity, but a concept appearing in the boundless field of your true nature. It's like a character in a play who has forgotten it's an actor and become completely identified with the role. The spiritual journey isn't about becoming something new, but about remembering what you've always been beneath the layers of identification and conditioning. Nisargadatta Maharaj, the great Indian sage, put it simply, "You are not in the universe is in you." This radical inversion of our usual perspective isn't just a philosophical notion, but a direct pointing to the nature of experience itself. Everything you've ever known, every person, place, object, idea, feeling, memory, has only ever been known within your consciousness. You've never experienced anything outside of awareness because awareness is all there is. the fundamental reality in which all appearances arise. One of the mind's most persistent illusions is the belief that you must control life. You plan, worry, and strategize, trying to bend reality to your preferences. You create elaborate mental models of how things should be and then suffer when reality doesn't conform to these models. You rehearse conversations before they happen, replay them after they've ended, and miss the actual experience while it's occurring. You try to control your body, your emotions, other people, and circumstances beyond your influence. But has this ever truly worked? Has worry ever prevented something unwanted from happening? Has resistance ever changed what already is? Think about how much energy you expend in this futile attempt at control. The tension in your body, the anxiety in your mind, the subtle background stress that permeates your daily experience, all stem from this fundamental misunderstanding about your relationship to life. It's exhausting, isn't it? And what's the result of all this effort? Does it bring the peace, happiness, and security you're seeking? Or does it actually create more suffering? The need for control stems from a fundamental misunderstanding, the belief that you are a separate entity fighting against life rather than an expression of life itself. It's like a wave trying to control the ocean, not realizing it is the ocean. This perceived separation creates fear, and fear drives the compulsion to control. But what if there's nothing to fear because there's no separate self to be threatened? What if you are not the vulnerable character in the story, but the awareness in which the entire story unfolds? Consider the paradoxical nature of control. The more tightly we grip life, the more it seems to slip through our fingers. Think of trying to hold water. The tighter you squeeze, the less you can hold. Similarly, the more desperately we try to control our experience, to guarantee security, ensure happiness, avoid pain, the more we suffer. This suffering doesn't come from the experiences themselves, but from our resistance to them, our insistence that they be different than they are. Ancient wisdom traditions speak of this as the difference between suffering and pain. Pain is inevitable in human life. Bodies age, relationships change, loved ones die. But suffering is the additional layer of resistance, the mental and emotional struggle against what is. Pain times, resistance equals suffering. When resistance drops away, what remains is simply the direct experience of what is, without the additional burden of fighting against reality. The truth is, there is no separate self that needs to control anything. The you that seems to make decisions is itself a thought appearing in awareness. The sense of being a doer, a thinker, a chooser, this too is an appearance in consciousness, not your fundamental reality. This doesn't mean you shouldn't act or make choices, only that those actions flow naturally from awareness rather than from a sense of separation and fear. When you recognize this, something profound happens. You stop resisting what is. Instead of fighting against reality, you align with it. This doesn't mean passive resignation, but active surrender, a willingness to let life move through you rather than believing you must control it. It's the difference between swimming against the current and flowing with the river, between clenching your fist and opening your hand. This surrender isn't a one-time event, but a moment-by-moment recognition and release. Each time you notice yourself tensing against reality, judging what is, wishing things were different, trying to manipulate outcomes through worry or control, you have the opportunity to soften, to open, to allow. This isn't about accepting injustice or passively enduring harmful situations. It's about recognizing when your resistance creates additional suffering and choosing instead to meet life with presence and clarity. Notice how much energy you've spent trying to control outcomes that were never in your hands. Notice the suffering this has caused. Then notice what happens when you simply let go and trust the intelligence that keeps your heart beating and the planets orbiting. There's a profound peace in this surrender, a freedom that comes not from getting what you want, but from wanting what you get. The great wisdom traditions have always pointed to this paradox. True freedom comes not from controlling life, but from surrendering to it. Not a surrender of defeat or resignation, but a surrender of recognition. Recognizing that you are not separate from the flow of life, but an expression of it. In this recognition, the struggle against reality naturally subsides, and what remains is a profound peace that doesn't depend on external conditions. Imagine living without the constant burden of trying to control everything. Imagine meeting each moment with openness rather than resistance, with curiosity rather than judgment, with acceptance rather than struggle. Imagine the energy that would be liberated, the peace that would naturally arise, the joy that would spontaneously emerge when you stop fighting against what is and start dancing with it. This is the freedom that awaits when the illusion of control dissolves into the recognition of your true nature as boundless awareness. Let's move beyond concepts to direct experience with these practical approaches to awakening awareness. These aren't techniques to achieve something new, but invitations to recognize what's already here, the aware presence that you are and have always been. Approach them not as tasks to accomplish, but as experiments in being, each one a doorway to the recognition of your true nature, the practice of pure listening. Sit quietly and simply listen. Don't label or judge what you hear, just notice how sounds arise in awareness. If a car passes by, don't think that's a car, just experience the sound as pure sensation. Notice the quality, texture, and movement of each sound without naming it. Pay attention to how sounds appear from silence and disappear back into silence, while the awareness that perceives them remains unchanged. Notice also the space between sounds, the silence that contains all noise. Is this silence merely the absence of sound, or is it the presence of awareness itself? As you continue listening, allow your attention to expand beyond individual sounds to the entire field of hearing. Notice how all sounds appear and disappear in the space of awareness, like ripples on a vast lake. This simple practice bypasses the thinking mind and anchors you in direct experience. Try this right now. For the next minute, close your eyes and just listen. Don't focus on any particular sound. Allow all sounds to come and go freely. Notice that what hears these sounds isn't itself a sound. It's the silent awareness that remains when all sounds cease. This awareness isn't confined to your ears or your head. It's boundless, open, and ever-present. Rest in this recognition, allowing sounds to arise and pass without following them with thought. As you practice pure listening, you might notice how quickly the mind wants to label and categorize sounds. Traffic, bird, refrigerator hum. Each time you catch this labeling, gently return to the pure experience of sound before conceptualization. This isn't about stopping thoughts, but about recognizing the difference between direct perception and mental commentary. The sounds themselves are complete just as they are, without needing any interpretation or explanation. With practice, you might begin to notice that there isn't actually a you listening to sounds out there. Instead, there's just listening happening, a seamless field of awareness in which sounds arise and pass. This collapse of the apparent boundary between listener and listened to reveals the non-dual nature of experience. There's no separate perceiver, just perception happening within the field of awareness that you are. The gateway of breath. Your breath exists only in the present moment, making it a perfect portal to presence. Unlike thoughts that can wander into past or future, the breath is always now. Begin by simply feeling the sensations of breathing without controlling or analyzing them. Feel the coolness of the air entering your nostrils, the warmth as it leaves. Notice the expansion and contraction of your chest and belly, the subtle movements throughout your body with each breath. When thoughts arise, and they will, gently return attention to the breath. This isn't about forcing the mind to be quiet. It's about redirecting attention to the immediate experience of being alive. With each inhale, sense the expansion. With each exhale, feel the release. Notice that what observes the breath remains constant while the breath itself changes. As this practice deepens, you might notice that the boundary between you and the breath begins to dissolve. There's no separate self observing the breath. There's just breathing happening in awareness. This recognition can extend to all experience. There's no separate self experiencing life. There's just life experiencing itself through this particular form. Try this variation. Instead of focusing exclusively on the breath, allow your awareness to include the breath and everything else arising in your experience. Sounds, sensations, thoughts, feelings. Let the breath be an anchor for attention while remaining open to the totality of what's happening. Notice that awareness itself doesn't change or move, regardless of what appears within it. The breath has been used as a gateway to presence in spiritual traditions worldwide for thousands of years. In Sanskrit, the words for breath, prana, and spirit, atman, are closely related, reflecting the recognition that the breath is not just a physical process, but a manifestation of the life force itself. By attending to the breath with awareness, you're not just observing a bodily function. You're communing with the rhythmic pulse of life itself. Notice how the breath breathes itself. You don't need to control or manage it. Similarly, life lives itself through you without requiring a separate controller. The more deeply you rest in awareness, the more you discover that everything happens spontaneously without requiring a doer. This doesn't mean becoming passive or irresponsible. Rather, it allows your actions to flow naturally from presence rather than from the limited perspective of a separate self. The mirror of thought. Instead of being carried away by thoughts, simply observe them. When a thought arises, label it gently: planning, worrying, remembering, judging. This creates space between you, awareness, and the content of mind. With practice, you'll begin to see that thoughts are like clouds passing through the sky of awareness. They come and go, while awareness remains unchanged. Notice the qualities of different thoughts. Some feel heavy, others light. Some trigger emotional responses, others don't. Some command attention, others barely register. See if you can catch thoughts as they first arise before they gather momentum and sweep you away in a story. Notice also the gaps between thoughts, the brief moments of pure awareness before the next thought emerges. A powerful question to explore: who or what is aware of these thoughts? Can the thinker of thoughts be found, or is there only thinking happening in awareness? When you look for the thinker, do you find a solid entity or just more thoughts? This inquiry can reveal that what you've taken to be you, the thinker, is itself a thought appearing in the awareness that you truly are. Try this experiment. For 5 minutes, sit quietly and mentally note each thought as it arises. Don't suppress thoughts or follow their content. Simply notice them. Planning, remembering, judging, imagining. After a few minutes, shift attention to the awareness in which these thoughts appear. What is the nature of this awareness? Does it have boundaries? Is it affected by the thoughts that pass through it? Rest in the recognition of awareness itself. As you practice this, you may notice how the mind tends to create stories, narratives that link separate thoughts into a coherent whole. I need to remember to buy groceries later, but I don't have time because I have that meeting, and I'm still annoyed about what my colleague said yesterday. Notice how quickly thoughts chain together to create a sense of continuous identity. A me moving through time with problems to solve and goals to achieve. Can you see how this narrative construction creates the illusion of a separate self? The power of this practice lies not in stopping thoughts, an impossible and unnecessary goal, but in recognizing that thoughts don't define or confine you. They're simply movements in the field of awareness, like waves on the ocean. The ocean doesn't try to stop waves, it simply remains as the space in which waves arise and subside. Similarly, awareness doesn't need to stop thoughts. It simply recognizes itself as the boundless space in which thinking happens. The inquiry of self. Ask yourself, who am I? But don't answer conceptually. Instead, turn attention toward the one who is aware. Who or what is conscious of these words? Of sensations in the body? Of sounds in the environment? Rest in this questioning, not seeking an answer, but allowing the question to point toward the answer. This inquiry cuts through layers of identification with the body, mind, emotions, roles, and personal history to reveal the aware presence that underlies all experience. It's not about finding a new identity, but about recognizing the awareness that contains all identities. This awareness isn't something you possess, it's what you are. The question, who am I, is like a sword that cuts through illusion. Each time the mind offers an answer, I am this body, this personality, these beliefs, the question cuts deeper. But who is aware of this body? Who is aware of this personality? Who is aware of these beliefs? Eventually, the questioning leads to a direct recognition of awareness itself, not as an object to be known, but as the knowing presence in which all objects appear. Try this approach. Throughout the day, pause regularly and ask, who is aware right now? Don't think about the answer, feel into it directly. Notice the quality of aware presence that's reading these words. Is it personal or impersonal? Located or boundless? Born or unborn? Rest in the simplicity of being aware prior to all concepts and identities. This practice of self-inquiry has been central to many spiritual traditions, particularly Advaita Vedanta, as taught by sages like Ramana Maharshi. Unlike practices that focus on manipulating experience or achieving altered states, self-inquiry goes directly to the heart of the matter, the nature of the one who experiences. By persistently questioning the assumption of being a separate self, the illusion gradually dissolves, revealing the boundless awareness that is our true nature. Remember that this inquiry isn't intellectual, but experiential. You're not looking for a concept or definition of the self, but for the direct recognition of what you are prior to all concepts and definitions. This recognition can't be grasped by the mind because it's what contains the mind. It can only be known by being it, by resting as the awareness that you already are. The practice of embodied presence. While awareness isn't limited to the body can be a powerful gateway to presence. Begin by feeling the aliveness within your hands. Don't think about your hands. Feel them from within. Notice the subtle tingling, warmth, or energy that indicates life presence. Gradually extend this awareness to your arms, shoulders, chest, abdomen, pelvis, legs, and feet, until you're sensing the entire body as a field of living presence. From this embodied awareness, notice that the boundary between inside and outside begins to soften. The skin doesn't separate you from the world, it connects you to it. Sounds, sights, and sensations all appear within the same field of awareness. The body isn't something you have or something you are. It's an experience arising in the awareness that you are. As you move through your day, return frequently to this embodied presence. Notice how it transforms ordinary activities. Walking becomes a dance. Eating becomes a communion. Touching becomes a revelation. When awareness permeates the body, every movement and sensation becomes an expression of the sacred, the eternal made manifest in form. Try this now. Feel the weight of your body against the surface supporting it. Feel the contact between your feet and the floor, between your body and the chair. Notice the space your body occupies and the space surrounding it. Is there really a boundary where your body ends and space begins? Or does your direct experience reveal a continuity of awareness that includes both body and space? This embodied approach is particularly valuable in our culture, which tends to overemphasize the conceptual mind while disconnecting from bodily wisdom. By bringing awareness into the body, we counteract this imbalance and discover that the body itself is a field of intelligence, an expression of consciousness and form. Far from being an obstacle to spiritual recognition, the body can be its most immediate vehicle. Notice how the body is always in the present moment. While the mind can travel to past and future, the body exists only now. By anchoring awareness in bodily sensations, you naturally align with the present moment, where life actually happens. This embodied presence brings a groundedness and stability to the recognition of awareness, preventing it from becoming abstract or disconnected from everyday life. These practices aren't separate paths, but different doorways to the same recognition. You are not a separate entity experiencing awareness. You are awareness experiencing the appearance of separation. Explore them with openness and curiosity, not as techniques to master, but as invitations to remember what you've never actually forgotten: your true nature as boundless, peaceful awareness. Non-dual awareness isn't reserved for meditation cushions or spiritual retreats. Its true value emerges in everyday life, in relationships, work, challenges, and joys. When you recognize yourself as the awareness in which all experience appears, life transforms from within. This transformation isn't about changing what happens, but about changing your relationship to what happens. It's about living from a deeper truth that embraces all experience without resistance or attachment. Emotions still arise, but they're no longer personal problems to solve. They're movements in awareness, like waves on the ocean. You can feel anger, fear, or sadness completely without being defined by them. They flow through you rather than becoming you. This doesn't mean emotional detachment or suppression. Quite the opposite. It means feeling emotions more fully because you're no longer afraid of being overwhelmed by them. You recognize that emotions, like all experiences, are temporary expressions in the unchanging field of awareness. When difficult emotions arise, instead of identifying with them, "I am angry," or resisting them, "I shouldn't feel this," simply acknowledge them as experiences in awareness. Anger is arising. Notice the physical sensations, energy, and thoughts that comprise the emotion. Allow them to be as they are, neither indulging nor suppressing. From the spaciousness of awareness, emotions can move through you without becoming stuck patterns of reactivity. Consider how our usual relationship with emotions creates suffering. When we identify with an emotion, we become it completely, losing perspective and acting from its limited viewpoint. When we resist an emotion, we create tension and internal conflict, often prolonging and intensifying the very feeling we're trying to avoid. But when we meet emotions with awareness, neither identifying nor resisting, they can flow naturally, delivering their message without creating unnecessary suffering. Imagine meeting fear this way. Instead of becoming fearful, identifying, or trying not to be afraid, resisting, you simply notice fear arising in awareness. You feel the sensations in your body, perhaps tightness in the chest, shallow breathing, a churning stomach. You notice the thoughts that accompany the fear, predictions of danger or catastrophe. But you don't become these sensations and thoughts, nor do you fight against them. You remain as the awareness in which they appear, allowing them to be exactly as they are. From this spacious perspective, fear loses its overwhelming power, and you're free to respond wisely rather than react blindly. Relationships change too. When you see that the same awareness looks through every pair of eyes, separation dissolves. The boundary between me and other softens, and compassion arises naturally. You recognize others not as separate beings, but as different expressions of the same consciousness that you are. This doesn't negate individual uniqueness. It celebrates it as the diverse ways in which awareness manifests. From this recognition, relationships become less about getting needs met or protecting yourself, and more about the mutual recognition of shared being. Conflicts don't disappear, but they're no longer threats to your identity. They become opportunities to dissolve misunderstanding and return to the recognition of oneness, expressing through apparent duality. When someone speaks or acts from confusion or suffering, you can respond with compassion rather than judgment, knowing that their behavior reflects their level of recognition, not their true nature. Even challenges become opportunities to deepen recognition. When difficulty arises, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you might wonder, "What is this teaching me? How is awareness expressing itself through this experience?" This shift from victim consciousness to learner consciousness transforms obstacles into gateways for growth and awakening. Consider how this perspective might transform a typical, challenging situation, perhaps a conflict with a colleague or an unexpected financial setback. From the perspective of a separate self, such challenges appear as threats to be resisted or problems to be solved as quickly as possible. But from the perspective of awareness, these same challenges are seen as movements within consciousness, neither defining you nor separate from you. This recognition doesn't eliminate the practical aspects of the situation. You still take appropriate action, but it removes the additional layer of psychological suffering that comes from resistance and identification. The mind will still plan, analyze, and solve problems. That's its function. But you no longer confuse these activities with your identity. They happen within you, awareness, but they are not you. Like a vast sky containing all weather, you contain all experiences without being defined by any of them. This recognition brings a profound relaxation. You no longer need to micromanage every aspect of life because you trust the intelligence that orchestrates the entire universe. Decision-making also transforms. Rather than endless mental deliberation, choices flow more naturally from present awareness. You learn to listen to the deeper intelligence that speaks through intuition, bodily sensations, and clear seeing, rather than being trapped in circular thinking. When decisions arise from presence rather than the separate self's fears and desires, they align more harmoniously with the whole. This shift isn't about escaping life, but embracing it fully. It's about being so completely here that the distinction between you and life vanishes. In this recognition, even ordinary moments reveal their extraordinary nature. A cup of tea, a conversation with a friend, the feeling of sunlight on the skin, all become expressions of the same undivided awareness. There's nothing to seek because nothing is missing. Life is no longer a journey toward fulfillment, but the ever-fresh expression of fulfillment itself. As this understanding deepens, a natural ethics emerges, not from rules imposed from outside, but from the recognition of interconnection. When you harm another, you harm yourself. When you serve another, you serve yourself. This isn't metaphorical, but literal. There is only one awareness appearing as the multiplicity of forms. Compassion, kindness, and integrity flow naturally from this recognition, not as virtues to cultivate, but as expressions of your true nature. Even in the midst of ordinary activities, working, cooking, cleaning, driving, awareness remains. These activities don't obstruct presence. They're expressions of it. When performed with awareness, the most mundane tasks become sacred, not because of what you're doing, but because of how you're doing it. Presence transforms everything it touches, revealing the extraordinary within the ordinary, the sacred within the seemingly profane. The greatest freedom comes from recognizing that you are not bound by time or identity. The you that was born has a history and will someday die as a story appearing in awareness. not your fundamental reality. Awareness itself was never born and will never die. It is timeless, formless, and free. This isn't a belief to adopt, but a reality to recognize directly in your own experience. Consider this: past and future exist only as thoughts in the present moment. All memories of the past arise now. All anticipations of the future arise now. Have you ever experienced anything outside of this eternal present? Even when remembering something from decades ago, the remembering itself happens now. Even when planning for years ahead, the planning happens now. This now isn't a point moving along a timeline. It's the timeless awareness in which the concept of time itself appears. In moments of clear seeing, you might recognize that the present moment is all there ever is. The past exists only as memory, the future only as imagination, both appearing now in awareness. When this is directly experienced, not just intellectually understood, time loses its grip. What remains is an eternal now in which all of life unfolds. This recognition doesn't make you irresponsible or unable to function in time. It liberates you from psychological time while still allowing you to use clock time as a practical tool. Similarly, personal identity, the sense of being a separate self with a particular name, form, and history, is revealed as a construction rather than an ultimate reality. Like a character in a novel, the personal self has a certain validity on its own level, but it's ultimately an appearance in something more fundamental, the awareness in which all experience arises. This doesn't mean the personal self should be rejected or transcended. It means it's recognized as a temporary expression of awareness rather than your fundamental identity. From this timeless perspective, you're free from the burden of becoming. There's nowhere to go, nothing to achieve, no one to become. You're already what you've been seeking, the aware presence in which all experience appears. This recognition doesn't lead to apathy, but to authentic action that flows from presence rather than lack. When you no longer believe you need something more to be complete, you're free to engage life fully without the desperation that comes from seeking completion through external achievements or relationships. This freedom from time and identity reveals the sacred dimension of existence, not as something separate from ordinary life, but as the hidden essence of every moment. The eternal now isn't elsewhere. It's this moment, experienced without the filter of conceptual thinking. It's a simple miracle of being aware, prior to all stories about who you are and what life should be. As you continue this exploration, remember that what you're seeking is what's seeking. The awareness reading these words is the awareness that wrote them. There is only one consciousness, appearing as the multiplicity of forms and experiences. This isn't a metaphysical belief, but a direct recognition that becomes increasingly clear as the illusion of separation dissolves. Share your glimpses of this truth, however subtle. Ask your questions, not to receive conceptual answers, but to deepen the inquiry. Practice these pointers not to attain something new, but to recognize what has always been present. The journey never ends because awareness is endless, an infinite exploration of itself through all forms and experiences. And in each moment of recognition, in each return to presence, the veil thins and the truth reveals itself. You are not in the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself as you. This recognition isn't the end point of a spiritual journey, but the beginning of a life lived in alignment with your true nature, boundless, peaceful, and free. This journey of awakening is both profoundly personal and utterly universal. It's the recognition of what you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning and identification. It's the remembering of your original nature before concepts, before words, before the very idea of a separate self arose. And yet, paradoxically, this most intimate discovery reveals that what you are is not personal at all. It's the universal consciousness that animates all beings, the one light shining through countless forms. In the end, these words are merely fingers pointing to the moon. Don't mistake the finger for the moon itself. Look where it's pointing, to the aware presence that you already are. Let go of all concepts, all teachings, all pointers, and rest in the simple, self-evident truth of being aware. This awareness is your birthright, your true nature, your most intimate reality. It's not something to attain, but something to recognize. The ever-present backdrop against which the entire play of existence unfolds. And from this recognition, allow life to live itself through you, spontaneously, joyfully, compassionately, not as a separate entity navigating a foreign world, but as awareness itself dancing in its own infinite expressions. This is the freedom that awaits when the veil of separation dissolves and the truth of who you are stands revealed, boundless, timeless, already complete. In the end, these words are merely fingers pointing to the moon. Don't mistake the finger for the moon itself. Look where it's pointing, to the aware presence that you already are. Adyashanti.